Where in Italy can you eat the most delicious apple strudel and smoky ham? That doesn't sound so Italian, does it? But it is. Let's go to the northern region of South Tyrol, where the cuisine is very different from the classic pizza and pasta dishes we generally think of as Italian, on this episode of the Untold Italy podcast.
Ciao a tutti and benvenuti to Untold Italy, the travel podcast where you go to the towns and villages, mountains and lakes, hills and coastlines of Bella Italia. Each week your host, Katy Clarke, takes you on a journey in search of magical landscapes, history, culture, wine, gelato, and of course, a whole lot of pasta. If you're dreaming of Italy and planning future adventures there, you've come to the right place.
Dreaming of arriving in Italy, strolling into a gelateria and ordering your gelato with confidence? If you've been learning Italian with language apps but still can't string a sentence together, it might be time to try another approach. My friend Michelle from Intrepid Italian offers a practical way to learn travel-ready Italian. Thanks to her unique 80-20 method, Michelle teaches you exactly what you need to know to connect with locals and have more authentic travel experiences. There's no getting bogged down in awkward phrases and unnecessary grammar. As an adult learner herself with Italian heritage, Michelle really knows how to bridge the gap between English and Italian. As Roma from London said, the learning methodology is great. I progressed much faster in the last 4 weeks than I ever did on my own or using other language apps. To find out more and claim your free Italian travel phrase guide, visit untolditaly.com/Italian or visit the link in the show notes. As a bonus, you'll also get an exclusive $20 coupon code to use on any of Michelle's online self-paced courses. So visit untolditaly.com/Italian and accelerate your Italian language journey today. Ciao friends, I hope everyone is having a wonderful week and as always, you're dreaming of Italy. Now, lately I've been doing some tidying and we're moving house and I'm just tidying up a few things. And I found one of my favourite childhood books, which was Heidi. And it's the story of a little girl living in the mountains. Now, if you're familiar with this book, you'll know that it's set in the Swiss Alps. And I bet you're thinking, what's that got to do with Italy, Katy? But bear with me because South Tyrol region is not dissimilar to the Alps and it is really part of those Central European mountain ranges. So the Heidi vibes are maybe not what we are expecting in Italy, but they are really part of this region of northern Italy that we're going to today. Apart from the scenery, everything about the South Tyrol region is much more like Austria and Switzerland than it is like southern Italy, right down to the cows wearing bells on the mountains, just like in Heidi. Today, we're chatting about the cuisine and wine of this region with our friends Kate and Vin, whose website, Throne and Vine, is an excellent resource for those of you who want to travel to this beautiful region of South Tyrol. I can't wait to hear all about their thoughts on how to taste their way around the beautiful hills and valleys and mountains of that region. So let's welcome them back. Bentornati, Kate and Vin, welcome back to the Untold Italy podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Oh, it is so good to see you again and have a chat. And I love always speaking with you because you've got so much passion for the South Tyrol region. And what's new? When are you going next? Tell everyone and tell everyone about yourselves as well.
Yeah, we're going. We're actually funny. We just booked today.
Oh,
and we found a great flight deal. So we're going to be going. I think we arrive in Munich on the 1st of October, and we're there for 15 days. Yeah, so what we typically do is we fly into either Munich, Milan, or Venice because of where we're based. And this year, Munich won. So go to Munich, rent a car, and then drive a few hours down, and then we're in paradise.
Amazing. So, Kate, how about you tell us all about you and Throne and Vine, because some people may not have met you yet, but we want to make sure that they know exactly what your passion is for this area and how it all came to be.
Yeah, we first found the region and fell in love with it when we went to Merano about 10 years ago. So that was when we first went there and just kind of stumbled across it in a TripAdvisor forum, actually. And since then, we've wanted to share our love for it and honestly get to live in it day in, day out. So we started our own travel company and we focus on South Tyrol and the Dolomites. We do itineraries for people, so kind of personalized trip plans. We do private day tours and just building out any content that we think is exciting to share with the rest of the world to introduce them to the region.
And what I love about what you guys do is it's so focused on the locals there and the local experiences. A lot of people know about Dolomites in particular for some of these amazing mountains and peaks and the lakes, the Lago di Braise especially. But I think we have got this shared passion for the people and the culture there that's really unique. And that's what I love, that you are able to connect people with that local culture.
Yes, that's one of my favorite parts.
Okay, so one of the best bits about the culture, obviously, in any trip to Italy and any region of Italy is obviously the food and the wine, and it's no different in South Tyrol, and it's very special. So how about, you give us a bit of an introduction of the region and the cuisine and the wines, and we can go from there because it's very different to the rest of Italy, isn't it?
Yeah, we kind of think as South Tyrol as a land of wild contrast. So you have, on one hand, you have very Mediterranean, lush valleys, palm trees, orchards, and vineyards. And then on the other hand, you have Alpine, which is the Dolomites and the Texel Alps. So it's really, really diverse. And that kind of lends itself to everything from the architecture that you see to the traditions you experience. And then, of course, down to the food. And on top of that, you also have a mix of cultures. In South Tyrol, there's 3 official languages spoken. German, which is about 70% of the population, Italian's 25%, and then there's a small population of Ladin people, and they speak their own distinct language, and they're located in remote valleys of the Dolomites. So that all of that, the landscape and the culture kind of mingling together really creates a unique cuisine and culinary heritage that, is fascinating.
Absolutely. And it's so clean and fresh. I mean, there's one thing when you go up there, you really notice your lungs are just going, this is a holiday. I'm loving this because it's so clean and fresh. And the water is pure because it's coming straight off the mountain snow. And they've got a really strong commitment to sustainable practices up there too, haven't they?
Yeah, it's actually the region leads Italy in organic farming. The reason I think that it's kind of developed that way is because it's really a farm-to-table culture. If you think about, if you had to live in the mountains, it's remote, and you have to develop means of survival, going back centuries. And that's kind of just been reflected in how the cuisines evolved and the traditions that they have, especially in the fall. They do a lot of harvest festivals. Törggelen's a feast tradition. So it's really the mountain environment that's really shaped all of the food and wine of the region. The vineyards can grow from 600 feet up to 3,000 feet. So it's some of the highest vineyards in Europe.
I mean, it's super interesting, isn't it? Because people, when they think of Italy and wine, they generally think of Tuscany primarily, and maybe Sicily, maybe, or even Piedmont. But, I mean, it's a big wine-producing region up there in South Tyrol, and it's really, really great wine. It's delicious. I just love watching the practices because they've all the vines growing on the mountains. And
yeah, you don't have to be a fan of wine to appreciate the vineyards there, because they go from the valley all the way up the mountains to some castle ruin, right? So it's very beautiful. But it's actually the smallest wine growing region in Italy. I think, Kate, is it something like less than 1% of the wine out of Italy comes out of South Tyrol?
Mm-hmm. But I think they say the quality is in the 90th percentile. So even though it's producing such a small volume, it's incredibly high quality wines. And you notice that when you taste it.
You can't find them when you go back home. That's the other thing, because they keep it for themselves. They're smart.
Yeah, they're very smart. Yeah, and if you do find one, there's maybe a case in an entire liquor store or wine shop, and then it's gone. And then maybe you won't see it again for 6 months. So
I've just bought some because I'm going off to Italy soon, but I've just restocked up on my wine packing because I always forget to bring them. And I regret instantly because you can't take them back in your hand luggage, everyone. You've got to bring it back in your checked bag and not want it to smash.
Exactly. We usually come back with, because we visit so many different vineyards and wineries, we try to drink them all when we're there, so we don't have to bring them back. But, we always end up with at least a few.
Yeah, you have to bring something back so to have that little taste and remind you of what's going on. So how about so they've got these grapes, and one thing I remember when we were in Murano, we went on the Tapenina walk, which is a very popular walk that goes down the mountain or the hills down into the town. And along the way, there was a guy that was selling freshly squeezed grape juice.
Yes, delicious. Yeah.
And I think it was €1 or something. And there he was with his machine just squishing grapes. And then you just sat down on a little bench and looked out over the beautiful view.
That's what's so great about hiking there, is that you can just hike for a few miles and you come across a wine tavern, a little wine stand, and maybe a farm stand selling anything from apples to juice to syrups. It's wonderful. Unlike when you're hiking, at least where we live, we could hike for miles and not run into anything, which, that's nice in its own way. But when you're out all day, you kind of want to stop and maybe have a glass of wine or something to eat. That's really unique to South Tyrol, I think.
This is hiking on another level. So like we've mentioned that they've got grapes in South Tyrol. What are some of the other produce that they have there that really drives the cuisine of the region?
Yeah, probably apples is one of the biggest ones because it's Europe's #1 apple producing region. So they produce a lot of apples every year, almost 1 million tons each year. And that really you see throughout a lot of the seasonal meals. And there's also a lot of things like apricots. We end up with a lot of apricot dishes and desserts, which is, for a sugar fanatic like myself, one of my favorite items.
I would say, and then the other one that is pretty unique to the region is chestnuts. They have chestnut trees that are, I think, like 600 or 900 years old in a lot of the valleys. And you go there in the fall, you have to kind of watch where you step because they'll just litter the trails. But the South Tyroleans, they make everything from chestnut bread to chestnut beer. Kate, I think you have a favorite dessert, chestnut hearts. Mm-hmm. You only get in the fall. So they really take advantage of what just naturally grows around them, which is really neat.
And they look after their animals too, don't they? They really look after their animals. I'm sure the pigs are eating the chestnuts.
Yeah, that's probably. Yeah, I mean, it's a place where they really celebrate the small farm. I think there's 4,500 dairy farms in the region. And I think the average amount of cows that they have is like 15. So very small farms. So that's another really unique thing, is that they've kind of, where a lot of the world has gone to corporate farming, they've really, stayed with being local and celebrating and protecting the small family farms. In fact, I don't think if you were to try to buy a farm as an outsider, I don't even think you're allowed to. I think it can only stay within the generations of the families that live there, which is kind of unique. But that also lends to really local, fresh ingredients, sustainable practices because they have to. It's kind of a community culinary heritage where somebody down the road is the butcher and the next person is the cheesemaker, and then someone down the trail is a winemaker, and they all work together.
Yeah, I think the respect for the ingredients and the land is very much part of the culture there. It's very on display. I was just mentioning to Kate and Vin before we jumped on the recording to say that I just love their passion for their region and how they've adapted modern techniques, but they've still always stay very, very true to their local culture. And I think we can all learn a lot from that. I mean, I think most of us appreciate some things about modern life, but what they really have up there is a real sense of community and supporting each other and the passion for their land, which is so beautiful. And I really respect them, and I enjoy being up there because of that.
Yeah, it's unique in that they you can tell that they really value tradition, and that's not just the old people in South Tyrol. It goes down to the youngest ones. We've been to many festivals, and we've commented how the children are there visiting or partaking in the dancing and the music. They're not on their cell phones.
Yeah, right.
It is pretty unique, I think, because when you go around most places, and I've got a nephew, he can't stop looking at it. So I think it's for whatever reason, culturally, they just have figured out how to really celebrate those traditions and keep them alive generation after generation.
Yeah. I mean, I still can't get over seeing the teenagers wearing their lederhosen. That's my favorite. It's really shocking almost to our, brains that have been sort of conditioned to think that, the way that our kids are these days is normal. But for them, it's so much part of their culture, and they're so proud of it, and they wear their, the floral garlands, they get dressed up in the traditional costume, and I'm sure there are some grumpy teenagers in South Tyrol, but they seem to really want to be part of it. You're not sensing that teenage angst too much in there.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising when you go over there and you kind of expect them to be like every other teenager, kind of rebel against, what's been done in the past. But over there, they just embrace it. And I think it just boils down to strong traditions and culture.
Yeah. And maybe, I'm going to get a little bit philosophical here now, guys, but maybe it's because they do see a future in their home and where they've grown up, so they can see that there's plenty of opportunities for them not only to have a good life, but also to do some, more modern things, but still stay true to their traditions. So they're not wanting to necessarily get out and leave, which is something that we do see a lot in our English-speaking cultures as well. People, everyone wants to go to New York or LA or, I did. I wanted to go to London. So, yeah, maybe it's that the way that community, and they've built the respect for that community, and, they also have one foot in the future and one foot in the past.
It also helps that they live in the most beautiful place on the planet.
Yeah.
It's not hard on the eye, is it? No.
No, it's fun to talk to those younger generations too, though, and hear about how they're planning to innovate and move things to the next level and modernize, but they also have that strong connection to their heritage and their ancestry.
Yeah, amazing. You can definitely learn something from them up there. All right, now let's just get stuck into this food because, Kate, you mentioned apples, and their apple game is really strong, and I love apricots too. And you do see that featured a lot in breakfast. I mean, the breakfasts up there are absolutely insane. If you like a breakfast and you want the whole option of breakfast, this is where you've got to go, people, because it is the best you've ever had, hands down.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Huge spreads wherever you go with a lot of fresh meats, fresh breads that were just baked. I love the yogurt over there. Mm. You can really taste how fresh it is. And then all of the fresh fruit, like the apples, are topped on there. It's phenomenal. Breakfast is absolutely my favorite time of the day over there.
Yeah. I'll add to that normally I wouldn't eat cheese during breakfast, but over there, the Alpine cheeses, that's usually one of the first things I go to when I'm walking into the breakfast buffet at a resort. I go right for the Alpine cheeses. They're just made out of hay milk, so it's very, very fresh, and just has a more natural taste than some of the cheeses that I've tried elsewhere.
Yeah. Do they have any specific varieties that you like?
Yeah, probably my favorite would be a cheese called Stelvio. It's kind of a sharp and tangy cheese. I think it's aged, I want to say 60 days, but it's actually been around for centuries, and it's named after one of the high Alpine passes. It might be one of the highest in Europe. That's located in Italy called the Stelvio Pass. So it's a cheese that's from that side of South Tyrol.
Oh, is that the one that's got little holes in it? It's slightly yellow?
Yes, yeah, it's slightly yellow. There's another really unique cheese called Lagrein, which is actually the name of a wine variety, and it's a cheese that they actually soak it in the wine and then add certain herbs and stuff to season it. You can taste a hint of the wine in the cheese, but when you pair it with a glass of wine, I don't think there's anything better.
Okay, I'm sold. I mean, sometimes you just get so obsessed with something when you're there that you miss. I miss the Lagrein cheese, so I need to go back to South Tyrol. But just back to the apples, like at breakfast, they also have the strudel. Like if you get to a place where they've just made the fresh strudel out of the oven for breakfast, you're onto a winner. Like, let me tell you. My son had 3 pieces. I'm not even going to go there. But like, I think it's a fresh air. You must, you like burn off so many calories that you get hungry because you just, I don't know, somehow you just eat.
Yeah, it's probably the place I eat the most and still manage to lose the most. So I think it's a good combination.
Nice and healthy. So, okay, apples, cheese, what else? Now, I think the one thing that is kind of so obvious when you're up there is this obsession with pork-based products. So speck is the deal, isn't it?
It is. Speck is actually a mountain smoked meat. And I'm actually going to let Vin take that because that is one of his favorites, and he is the speck connoisseur.
Yeah, speck is it's a mountain smoked ham that is aged in the mountains for months. So it's in a cellar in the mountains, so it gets a lot of fresh air. They put a lot of salt on it. They put juniper, and then each family that produces speck kind of has their own special recipe to season it. So you can go through South Tyrol or South Tyrol and taste a variety of different specks from different producers. And it's not something that you would necessarily eat on like a sandwich. It's something that you slice up and snack on. So a very popular dish over there that's known as a mid-afternoon snack for South Tyrolean farmers is called a merende. And that includes basically it's a wooden board served with speck, smoked sausage, Alpine cheeses, and a crispy bread called schutterbrot. And it's great when you're out hiking and you don't want a full meal, order a merende. It's also called brettel in some places, but that's a wonderful way to kind of sample some of the local cuisine and also fill up for some more hiking. So it's one of my favorite dishes.
It's so good. I reckon it tastes like the best when you're up in the mountain there and you got that glass of wine or a beer happening and, yeah, munching away. And what I noticed earlier this year when we were in San Candido, they had these tiny little delis that's where you get the specialty ones. Like you will see the big, more produced spec shops around towns, don't you? Like there's a lot of them, and I feel like they're very popular with the visitors, particularly from like Austria and Germany. Like they love going there. I can tell it's always crowded, but I always try and look for the little delicatessens, the little, providors where you get the homegrown ones.
Exactly. Yeah. We've even been in little restaurants or little homes, and then folks will have these tiny little almost cave-like caverns, cellars that they've got where they've got a bunch of speck hung up that is working its way through the very long process it goes through. So it's always fun to see those.
Yeah. When you walk through a place that's aging speck, you literally want to grab the rock out of the wall and eat it. It smells so amazing.
When people think of pork products like bacon, I think they think it's very fatty, but this is actually really lean, isn't it? And it's really high in protein, which is really great for, doing all that mountain walking, I guess.
Yeah, and people will have it pretty much in any meal during the day. So it's for breakfast. You could just have it as with some cheese. You might see it in bolognese, a dish like that. Also, pizza. You can order pizza and have it with speck.
No, they're also proud of their local produce. It's very different. So, yeah, you do get that different flavour of the speck, and people will travel for speck. They will. It's true. All right, what else can we eat? Like, it's all about eating, and you really do get very hungry in that mountain air. It's pretty high altitude, some of it. You're up at 2,000 metres above sea level, so you do get hungry.
Agreed. One of my favorite things to have, especially when we're hiking, just because, like I mentioned, I will eat a lot, but then I will also burn a lot, is the Hjorten macaroni, which is their shepherd's pasta. So it's a very creamy penne pasta. I'm really loading up on the carbs when I'm over there. So this is one of my favorites, but it has a minced meat ragu and mushrooms and peas, and you could have speck in there too, even. Topped with a lot of chives, parsley. So it's really, it feels like you're tasting the true environment that you're in within that dish. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, that sounds yum. But the one you always see and the one you absolutely have to try is there's one special dish, isn't there? What is that?
Well, I would say there's two of them, but I think you're talking about knödel, dumplings. Yeah. To me, that's like the South Tyrol's soul food. That's what you really, when you're really hungry, you've been hiking for 4 hours and you really are maybe chilled to the bone, you go and order a plate of knödel. And those are dumplings. They're about the size of a fist. And they're seasoned with anything from spinach to cheese to beets. My favorite is, of course, speck knödel. And there's actually a dish where you can, called tree knödel, where you can enjoy a cheese knödel, a spinach knödel, and a speck knödel. So you kind of get a variety of flavors. But it's something that you'll see served in soup. You may even see it served on a bed of lettuce. So it comes in a variety of fashions. It's one of those things that you're going to fall in love with it, and then you're going to go home and try and make it, and you're going to realize you're going to need to take a cooking class on your next trip back because it is very hard to make.
It is the ultimate dumpling, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can even enjoy it as a dessert. We've had them where they're filled with marmalade, with cream cheese. So it's very versatile, and it goes back. I think they found a painting in Hokopan Castle, which is in the south of Bolzano, and there's a painting of some medieval chap eating a bowl of knödel. So it goes back to at least the 1300s.
Yeah, I mean, like I can tell it's been refined. It's a refined recipe.
Yes.
What about you mentioned there's another dish that you think's iconic from South Tyrol. What's that one, Vin?
That's Schlutzkrapfen, and that's Kate's favorite. I'll let her talk about that, or one of her favorites.
Yes. So it's kind of like a half moon pasta, but it's like a ravioli. Usually it's filled with like a spinach, ricotta, and then has kind of a brown butter, fresh chives all over it. So it looks, when you get the dish, it looks so simple and it looks so light, and it's very, very filling. But you could also have mushrooms in it, potato, meat, a whole variety of things. But it is just melt in your mouth good. It's so delicious.
So that's the Schlutzkrapfen, and I'm not going to make you say that 5 times really fast because it's a bit of a mouthful, that one. What is there anything else that you love? I mean, they do it is very potato, butter, speck heavy cuisine, so it is robust, isn't it?
Very robust, and that kind of goes back to some of the wines they produce too. So like I don't know if we talked specifically about it, but like Lagrein is their bold red, and it's native to the region. So the kind of the richness, the heartiness of the food, they need wines to pair with that, and that would be a great one for anybody over there. Order up a plate of knödel and get a bottle of Lagrein. Or if you're having a goulash is also popular over there, and you can get that with wild game, such as roe deer, ibex. So it is really based, the cuisine's really based on the mountain environment and taking what you can find in the forest, in the meadows, whether that's foraging or hunting. When you're there, you're eating, you feel really connected to the land.
It can get a lot, though, I have to say. Like if you're there for maybe like a week or maybe more than a week, you can find that. And I think it's super interesting that they try and adapt other dishes to their own local environment as well. So when we're staying at one place where, honestly, this is a place for food lovers because they would give you breakfast and merenda or afternoon tea and like it was a lot. I mean, it was delicious, but I noticed that they would try and like mix things up a little bit because I think if you're not used to all of that all at once, it can be like, whoo, That's a lot. But it is very different to, like, you couldn't really get more different to Naples. Like, it's just completely different.
Completely different. But it's also the variety. You can have your traditional Tyrolean and Ladin cuisine, which is more, hearty and rustic. But then you can also find on the menu, a pasta dish that's straight out of the Mediterranean. So that's the uniqueness of the two cultures, is that you have, the Australian or Austrian.
Happens all the time.
Austrian influence and German influence. Paired with the Italian influence. So yeah, they do get really creative with their dishes and their cuisine. It's interesting that there's more Michelin-starred restaurants in South Tyrol than all of Italy. So it kind of reflects the fact that they really, really take their culinary practices very serious and are also very innovative.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually stayed in a place that I was talking about earlier in San Candido, where they reared their own beef, and you can taste that those were very well looked after cows. You can find those restaurants. I mean, we were traveling with the kids, so we didn't go to the Michelin star, even though one of them would have actually liked to do that, but but there's so many places. Like, as you say, they're really committed to all of this delicious food. So you mentioned Lagrein wine, and that's the red, but there's also a lot of white wines that they produce up there too, aren't there?
There are, yeah. One of my favorites is the Gewürztraminer, which is a very light, kind of tropical tasting wine that the region is really known for. But it has kind of a peach, ginger, honey, all of that blended within the wine. Really good with any meal that you're having, especially with the Schlutzkrapfen, like I was mentioning earlier. It's really delicious with that.
So we know when we're traveling around Italy to find all the good. You can find restaurants. There's a lot of, like in every place in Italy, there's touristic restaurants and that. But to find the really good stuff, how do you go about that? Because it is a bit hit and miss, and if you've only got 2 weeks or a week or a few days up in that area, you want to make sure you're really trying the best versions of what we've just talked about. How can we do that?
If you're really looking for an authentic experience, I would say there's two ways you can go about it. There's mountain farm taverns over there called Buschenshanks. They're tradition that goes back centuries, and that's what they are. They're essentially farm taverns where they might be connected to somebody's farm or house, and it's a place where you can go in and virtually everything that you're going to eat is grown right on the farm. So, and you also, on top of that, you're going to get these amazing family traditions, where somebody's grandma has a recipe that she's passed down, and that recipe doesn't leave the farm. So you're getting very unique cuisine when you're there. When I was planning a trip, I'd be looking for anything that is a farm tavern, Buschenschank. There's also an association called South Tyrolean Gasthaus, and that is an association where I think there's 27 different restaurants that are committed to keeping alive the authentic traditions of South Tyrol's cuisine. And that comes in not just in how they prepare it, but also in the environment they serve it in. So you could look for any restaurant that's listed as part of that association. To me, those are always the ways we kind of find the hidden gems. And then the best way is to talk to a local and ask them, when they're going out to eat with their family to celebrate something, where do they go? If you've developed a good relationship with them, they will tell you or point if you can't speak the language.
Oh, then you know what? These are smart people. They're speaking multiple languages up there. My rudimentary high school German goes a little way, but they're very good on English. I find in South Tyrol. But if you wanted to try everything, the wine, the knödel, the bread, the cheese, there is one thing you could do, isn't there? There's like, if you were there at a specific time of year and you just have to go to one thing and you have that all in one go.
Yes, you could partake in one of our day tours. So we've launched 4 different day tours, and they cover everything from a wine experience where we visit the South Tyrolean Wine Road. Another package includes visiting a speck producer, a winery, and a distillery. And another package is we visit a cheesemaker in the Dolomites and a chocolate maker. And I think on that one too, we also visit one of the world's oldest wineries, which is actually a monastery. The final package is you visit actually a castle called Prosos Castle, and it's surrounded by vineyards. So you walk through the vineyards, tour the castle, enjoy a light lunch, and then visit a distillery near Alpe d'Huez. So those packages are all guided by our partner, Franz Legator. He's a former sommelier for a five-star hotel in Ortizay, and he's also a South Tyrolean gourmet ambassador. Really fun guy. Yeah, if somebody's really looking to experience South Tyrol in the most authentic way, go with a local guide, whether it's Franz or somebody else. That's how you really, really get to know the region.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no better way. I can't recommend this enough. If every time I go somewhere new in Italy, I'm really always going to seek out these people, and they can be hard to find because they're not very good at advertising. But fortunately, Kate and Vin have made a partnership with France so that you can actually access him very easily. And, you know, the other thing that you could do, I mean, and I would go on all of those trips because cheese, wine, chocolate, tick, tick, tick. But if you're there in fall, you could also do the Törggelen feast, couldn't you? Which is like they just covers the whole thing.
It does. It does. And it's a whole experience. You get to see the chestnuts roasted. Sometimes if you go to a Bush and Shank, then they will also be serenaded by other guests, which is what we have had in the past. And then you get to have a lovely meal that's made right there with everything that's come from that particular farm. So you get all the different courses. It's a whole experience through the night. And you get to meet different locals and meet the farm owner. It's a lot of fun.
It's a really special part of the world, I have to say. Like, I'm a really kind of recent person I've been there a few times, and I really love it. I like everything runs smoothly. Everyone is friendly. The food is delicious. The wine is amazing. And I completely understand how you fell in love with that area, and that it's very hard for you to leave there now, isn't it?
That's why we get to do this, so we get to feel like we live in the region every day, day in, day out.
You know, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but in this region in particular, you actually do need quite a bit of help. The information that's online is not amazing. And even we were just talking before, like even if you know it pretty well, it's really hard to find things out, how things just work. I just think they just don't think people need to know. Like, I don't know what it is. It's a strange. Anyway, in particular the lifts and the chair lifts. It's really hard to kind of understand what's going on. They do close roads and things like that. And so if you are thinking of spending an extended amount of time there, I strongly recommend you get some help. Kate and Vin did an amazing chat with me a couple of years ago before we went on our first trip there, just to help me understand how everything worked. And, you know, like, as you know, I frequent Italy a lot, and I travel like generally quite a lot. And I was still, when we got there, very, okay, yes, I'm so glad I had this conversation, because I wouldn't have known some things that will make your experience a lot easier. And when you've only got a week or a few days, you really want to maximize your time and have a good time rather than having to figure out lots of logistics issues. Anyway, that's where these guys can help.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, we always say if you're struggling, do not struggle. You know, planning services are affordable, and there's no reason to spend hours scouring, you know, forums and different Facebook groups and stuff when you can just get the help that you need, you know, with a click.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Thank you very much. All right, Kate and Vin, how can people get in touch with you and learn more about the experiences with France, eating all the things in South Tyrol and Törggelens and everything? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can find us at throneandvine.com. And then we're also Throne and Vine on all the various socials. So really any way that works for them, they can get in touch with us. Probably that's the easiest.
Yeah, I think so. And beautiful, beautiful Instagram, beautiful photos, beautiful website, very clever people. And I hope one day we'll meet up in person, and we will maybe at the Törggelen feast, maybe. Grazie. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.
Grazie mille.
Thank you so much. It's great to be on again.
Now, everyone, having spent a decent amount of time in South Tyrol recently, probably around 2 weeks now, I feel like I've only just scratched the surface. It's really such a magnificent region full of unique food, wine, culture, and of course that jaw-dropping scenery. Something about it really does get under your skin, and I have such a massive respect for how the locals work with their environment and each other. It's really a lovely thing to see in a day and age where, maybe we don't see that so much. So if you're interested, we're heading back there with one of our Untold Italy tour groups in September, and we do have a few spaces left if you like to join us. We can promise a Törggelen feast, cows with bells, shimmering lakes, edelweiss, soaring mountains and Alpine cheeses. And of course, we take care of everything so you can relax and enjoy the experience. Did I mention there are also thermal baths? Oh yes, this is a really good one, and our guest last year had such a fantastic time. And if you have a look on our social media, on our Instagram, you'll see some shots of that experience as well. So we'll put all the tour details and the information that Kate and Vin shared with us, and of course the details of their food tours and services, into our detailed show notes at untolditaly.com/273 for episode number 273. Thank you, all of you, to our wonderful listeners for your ongoing support of Untold Italy over this year and years past. I really do hope you enjoyed today's show. We truly appreciate all of you. Grazie mille. Thank you for tuning in. And that's all for today. On next week's show, we're heading into some truly untold territory in eastern Italy with one of our pod's favourite guests. But until then, it's ciao for now.
The Untold Italy podcast is an independent production. Podcast editing, audio production and website development by Mark Hatter, production assistance and content writing by the other Katy Clarke. Yes, there are two of us. For more information about Untold Italy, please visit untolditaly.com.